to the top of your live chat for viewers read. Click any message to pin it. Use the options menu to unpin. Okay, got it. Hi guys! Welcome to my second YouTube channel. Pasensya na po kayo, dito na lang po muna ako magla-live para po hindi maguguluhan yung aking YouTube channel na isa. Mag-open lang ako ng laptop. Oops. Uy! Sorry po. Ay, nangyari. Share natin ang atin pong yung atin pong live. Sa mga magagawi po dito sa aking live, please share it po so that mas marami po ang makapanood. Lagyan natin ng ilaw. Let's put a light. Tama ba? Add. Ayan. Ayan. Hi guys! Hello! Bright light, bright light. Kailangan natin ng tubig para ma-hydrate yung ating lalamunan. Just wait for some viewers to come in. Okay. I need to open the hotspot. Wait lang po personal hotspot. It's there. Para mai-connect ko po yung ating laptop. Samahan niyo po ako sa aking live ngayon. You're free to ask me questions po if you have some. Am I live? Yan. If you have some questions, please feel free to comment down below so I can answer your questions later. I'm just waiting for some viewers to drop by. Hey. Hi. The electric fan is so strong, which it makes my eyes dry. Let's go to YouTube. Time check, it's now 9:40 a.m. Ay, PM pala. 9:38 p.m. So let's vlog for maybe an hour so we'll be finished at 10:40 YouTube. Let's see. I'll just share this live so that they will be notified and drop by to my channel. Where is it? Where can I put it? Gagawin ko? Ay, share ko siya. Listeners. Um, Dito sa aking YouTube channel na Listeners Organist 2.0, meron po akong 358 subscribers and 57 videos. So, kailangan ko lang siyang dagdagan. Let's share it. Copy. Copy post. Ay, wala pa na nanonood. Wala pa rin. Wait lang. Makasakali. Let's go to my YouTube channel. And then, ipopost ko tong link ko. Tama ba? How can I do it? Dito yata yun eh. How can I do it? Ay, ito. I say, nakita ko na I already click the, no, it's not go live. No. It's not go live. I should create post, then I'll post, and then I'll paste the link of my video. Oh, wait lang guys ha, kasi wala tayong viewers dito. So, ang gagawin natin, itong link ng ating live ngayon ay ipopost natin sa community ng atin pong main channel na Listeners Organist. Okay, as an, ito, post na natin. Control V. Yan. And, ang title ko, pasok po sa live. Yan, ipopost ko na po guys. Sana ma-notify po kayo. Pasok po sa live ko guys. Hopefully, for almost 7 minutes and 42 seconds. Until now. Nga. Again. Siguro ang gagawin ko habang naghihintay tayo ng viewers, mag-shoutout po ako sa akin pong mga minamahal na subscribers sa channel na Listeners Organist. Punta ako sa saan nga ba ako pupunta? Manage videos pa yun. Yan. Ayan. Dito na tayo sa manage videos. Punta tayo sa comments. Shout out. Sige, mag-start po tayo mag-shout out kay Sir Bitoy Malana, Mirna Oha, Katurok Vlog TV. Hello, Oliver Uy, sir. Hello po, Rolly Dadole, kumusta po kayo? Clet Ziboy Dorobo, hello po, sir. Edsel Tirular, Kyrie Lee, Amic TV 45 UK, Luz Gamboa, Nugent, Jericho Vlogs, Marcula, Danford, sir, hello, kumusta kayo? Ramses Valencia, hello po kay Sir Roque Nava, is Ma'am Christine Gonzalez. Artista po ba kayo? Pang-artistahin po yung inyong pangalan. Ma'am Christine Gonzalez, shout out po. Ang tanong, wait lang. Bakit kaya until now is wala pa ring viewers? Tingnan nga natin yung atin pong post dashboard. Sa ating paano malalaman dito yung paano malalaman na what you call that? Paano malalaman? How can I know if I'm post content. Let's see the content post. Ito. Let's see kung naka-public siya. Baka kasi hindi naka-public. Okay. Naka-public naman siya. Yan, may nanonood na. Hello po sa first viewers. Salamat po sa pag-drop by. Ayan. Mag-live po tayo ngayon para lang kumustahan. Baka may makausap po ako dito na subscribers ko po. Mga subscriber ko po. Tap ng tubig. So, let's see. Kung posts, stories. Ang gagawin ko dito, siguro mahina yata ang net. Kasi naglalag eh. Tingnan mo, naglalag.
Hey, ikaw! Ikaw! Naninigarilyo ka pa rin ba hanggang ngayon?
Naglag.
Kasama ka sa bahay na lagi.
Tignan ko nga dito kung ito bang naglalag. Listeners Organist 2.0. Oo nga, naglalag. Mahina ang net, guys. Ayun o, naglalag siya. I think ang gagawin ko today is to turn off this laptop siguro. Naglalag eh. Sige, i-off ko muna tong laptop para hindi mag-loading yung ating ano. I-ano ko to. Ayun. Tapos, i-disconnect ko muna tong laptop. Baka kasi nag-aagaw ng internet yung ano eh. Alam niyo naman, naka-data lang po kasi ako eh. Tanggalin natin tong ano. Sorry guys. Sabi ng kapatid ko, sabi nung, kailangan pa daw ba magpulbo pag nag-vlog? Siyempre, tingkad-tingkad ng ano mukha ko eh. Kumaano siya. Ayun o, ang kintab-kintab ng mukha ko. Nakakaya naman. Happy. Yan. Sorry. Basa-basa din tayo pag may time. Basa na lang muna ako ha, matumali, walang nanonood. Walang nanonood, James eh. Magbabasa na lang ako para habang naghihintay ng mga viewers. Nagla-live, kaya lang doon sa second channel ko to eh. Hindi sa main channel. Pag sa main channel, marami sana ang manonotify. Kaya lang, yung pangalawang channel ko lang to. Matagal nang nawalang post dun eh. Kaya basa-basa muna ako. Nyari. Basa muna tayo ah. Okay. Neuroaesthetics. An emerging discipline called neuroaesthetics is seeking to bring scientific objectivity to the study of art and has already given us better understanding of many masterpieces. The blurred imagery of Impressionists printing seems to stimulate the brain's amygdala, for instance. Since the amygdala plays a crucial role in our feelings, that finding might explain why many people find these pieces too moving. Could the same approach also shed light on abstract 20th century pieces from Mondrian's geometrical blocks of color to Pollock's seemingly haphazard arrangement of splashed paints on canvas? Skeptics believe that people claim to like such works simply because they are famous. We certainly do have an inclination to follow the crowd when asked to make simple perceptual decisions such as matching a shape to its rotated image. For example, people often choose a definitively wrong answer if they see others um, doing the same. It is easy to imagine that this mentality would have even more impact on a fuzzy concept like art appreciation, where there's no right or wrong answer. May tao ba sa baba? Kala ko may tao. Kala ko may pumasok. Wala. Okay. Angelina Holly Dolan of Boston College, Massachusetts, responded to this debate by asking volunteers to view pairs of paintings, either the creations of famous abstract artists or the doodles of infants, chimps, and elephants. They then had to judge which they preferred. A third of the paintings were given no captions, while many were labeled incorrectly. Volunteers might think they were viewing a chimp's messy brushstrokes when they were actually seeing an acclaimed masterpiece. In each set of trials, volunteers generally preferred the work of renowned artists, even when they believed it was by an animal or a child. It seems that the viewer can sense the artist's vision in paintings, even if they can't explain why. Robert Pepperell, an artist based at Cardiff University, creates ambiguous works that are neither entirely abstract nor clearly representational. In one study, Pepperell and his collaborators asked volunteers to decide how powerful they considered an artwork to be and whether they saw anything familiar in the piece. The longer they looked to answer these questions, the more highly they rated the piece under scrutiny, and the greater their neutral activity. It would seem that brain sees these images as puzzles, and the harder it is to decipher the meaning, the more rewarding it is. The more rewarding is the moment of recognition. And what about artists such as Mondrian, whose paintings consist exclusively of horizontal and vertical lines encasing blocks of color? Mondrian's work are deceptively simple, but eye tracking studies confirm that they are meticulously composed and that simply rotating a piece radically changes the way we view it. With the originals, volunteers' eyes tended to stay longer on certain places in the image, but with the altered versions, they would flit across a piece more rapidly. Okay, as a result, the volunteers considered the altered versions less pleasurable when they later rated the work. Okay. In a similar study, Oisin Vartanian of Toronto University asked volunteers to compare original paintings with ones which he had altered by moving objects around within the frame. He found that almost everyone preferred the original, whether it was a Van Gogh still life of an abstract by Miro. Vartanian also found that changing the composition of the paintings reduced activation in those brain areas linked with meaning and interpretation. In other experiment, Alex Forsyth of the University of Liverpool analyzed the visual intricacy of different pieces of art, and her results suggest that many artists use a key level of detail to please the brain. Too little and the work is boring, but too much result is a kind of perceptual overload, according to Forsyth. What's more appealing pieces of both abstract and representational show more appealing pieces, both abstract and representational, show signs of fractals. Repeated motifs recurring in different scales, fractals are common throughout nature. For example, in the shapes of mountain peaks of the branches of trees. It is possible that our visual system, which evolved in the great outdoors, finds it easier to process such patterns. It is also intriguing that the brain appears to process movement when we see a handwritten letter as if we are replaying the writer's moment of creation. This has led some to wonder whether Pollock's work feels so dynamic because the brain reconstructs the energetic actions the artists used as he painted. This may be down to our brain's mirror neurons, which are known to mimic others' actions. The hypothesis will need to be thoroughly tested. However, it might even be the case that we could use neuroaesthetic studies to understand the longevity of some pieces of artwork. While the fashions of the time might shape what is currently popular, works that are best adapted to our visual system may be the most likely to linger once the trends of previous generation have been forgotten. It's still early days. It's still early days for the field of neuroaesthetics, and these studies are probably only a taste of what is to come. It would, however, be foolish to reduce art appreciation to a set of scientific laws. We shouldn't underestimate the importance of the style of particular artist, their place in history, and the artistic environment of their time. Abstract art offers both a challenge and the freedom to play with different interpretations. In some ways, it's not so different to science where we are constantly looking for systems and decoding meaning so that we can view and appreciate the world in a new way. Magbabasa tayo. Hanap tayo ng essay. Ito to. Maganda to. Babasahin ko po sa inyo. The benefit of being bilingual. The benefit of being bilingual. According to the latest figures, the majority of the world's population is now bilingual or multilingual, having grown up speaking two or more languages. In the past, such children were considered to be at a disadvantage compared with their monolingual peers. Over the past over the past few decades, however, technological advances have allowed researchers to look more deeply at how bilingualism interacts with and changes the cognitive and neurological systems, thereby identifying several clear benefits of being bilingual. Research shows that when a bilingual person uses one language, the other is active at the same time. When we hear a word, we don't hear the entire word all that at once. The sounds arrive in sequential order. Long before the word is finished, the brain's language system begins to guess what the word might be. If you hear can, you will likely activate words like candy and candle as well, at least during the earlier stages of word recognition. For bilingual people, this activation is not limited to a single language. Auditory input activates corresponding words regardless of the language to which they belong. Called language co-activation comes from studying eye movements. A Russian English bilingual asked to pick up a marker from a set of objects would look more at a stamp than someone who doesn't know Russian because the Russian word for a stamp, marka, sounds like the English word he or she heard, marka. In cases like this, language co-activation occurs because what the listeners hears could map onto words in either language. C. Having to deal with this persistent linguistic competition can result in difficulties, however. For instance, Knowing more than one language can cause speakers to name pictures more slowly and can increase tip of the tongue states when you can almost but not quite bring a word to mind. Tip of the tongue states when you can almost but not quite bring a word to mind. As a result, the constant juggling of two languages creates a need to control how much a person accesses a language at a given time. For this reason, bilingual people often perform better on tasks that require conflict management. In the classic Stroop task, people see a word and are asked to name the color of the word's font. When the color and the word match, the word red printed in red, people correctly name the color more quickly than when the color and the word don't match. This occurs because the word itself and its font color blue conflict. Bilingual people often excel at tasks such as this, um, which into the ability to ignore competing perceptual information and focus on the relevant aspects of the input. Bilinguals are also better at switching between two tasks. For example, when bilingual had to switch from categorizing object by color to categorizing them by shape. They do some more quickly than monolingual people, are reflecting better cognitive control when having to make rapid changes of strategy. Inom muna tayo tubig. Okay, continue. It also seems that the neurological roots of the bilingual advantage extend to brain areas more traditionally associated with sensory processing. When monolingual and bilingual adolescents listen to simple speech sounds without any intervening background noise, they show highly similar STEM responses. When researchers play the same sound to both groups in the presence of background noise, however, the bilingual listener's neural response is considerably larger, reflecting better encoding on the sound's fundamental frequency, a feature of sound closely related to pitch perception. Okay, such improvements in cognitive and sensory processing may help a bilingual person to process information in the new environment and help explain why bilingual adults acquire a third language better than monolingual adults master a second language. This advantage may be rooted. Okay, let's put an intonation. Okay, where is it now? This advantage may be rooted in the skill of focusing on information about the new language while reducing interference from the languages they already know. Research Research also indicates that bilingual experience may help to keep the cognitive mechanisms sharp by recruiting alternate brain networks to compensate for those that become damaged during aging. Older bilinguals enjoy improved memory relative to monolingual people, which can lead to a real-world health benefits. In a study of over 200 patients with Alzheimer's disease, a degenerative brain disease, bilingual patients reported showing initial symptoms of the disease an average of 5 years later than monolingual patients. In a follow-up study, much on the severity of Alzheimer's symptoms, surprisingly, the bilingual's brain had more physical signs of disease than their monolingual counterparts, even though their outward behavior and abilities were the same. If the brain is an engine, bilingualism may help it to go farther on the same amount of fuel. Furthermore, the benefits associated with bilingual experience seem to start very early. In one study, researchers taught 7-month-old babies growing up in monolingual or bilingual homes that when they heard a tinkling sound, a puppet appeared on one side of a screen. Halfway through the study, the puppet began appearing on the opposite side of the screen. In order to get a reward, the infants had to adjust the rule they learned. Only bilingual babies were able to successfully learn the new rule. This suggests that for a very young children, as well as for older people, navigating a multilingual environment imparts advantages that transfer far beyond language. Yung muna tayong tubig. Hello po. Wait lang. Basa ulit tayo. Babasahin ko po. What I'll be reading right now is entitled Flying Tartus. Tartus ba? What's the pronunciation of Tartus? Tortoise. So it's okay. Flying Tortoise, an airborne reintroduction program, has helped conservationists take significant steps to protect the endangered Galapagos tortoise. Kami ako na i-check yung pronunciation yan. Tortoise yata. Tortoise. Tama ba? Okay, let's see. Forests of spiny cacti cover much of the uneven lava plains that separate the interior of the Galapagos Islands of Isabela from the Pacific Ocean. With its 5 distinct volcanoes, the island resembles a lunar landscape. Only the thick vegetation at the skirt of the often cloud-covered peak of Sierra Negra offers respite from the barren terrain below. Ulitin ko po. Forests of spiny cacti cover much of the uneven lava plains that separate the interior of the Galapagos Island of Isabela from the Pacific Ocean. With its 5 distinct volcanoes, the island resembles a lunar landscape. Only the thick vegetation at the skirt of the often cloud-covered peak of Sierra Negra offers respite from the barren terrain below. This inhospitable environment is home to the giant Galapagos tortoise. Sometime after the Galapagos birth, around 5 million years ago, the islands were colonized by one or more tortoise from mainland South America. At these ancestral tortoise settled on the individual islands, the different populations adapted to their unique environments, giving rise to at least 14 different subspecies. Island life agreed with them. In the absence of significant predators, they grew to become the largest and longest living tortoise on the planet, weighing more than 400 kilograms, occasionally exceeding 1.8 meters in length and living for more than a century. Before human arrival, the archipelago tortoise numbered in the hundreds of thousands. From the 17th century onwards, pirates took a few on board for food. But the arrival of whaling ships in the 1790s saw this exploitation grow exponentially. Relatively immobile and capable of surviving for months without food or water, the tortoise were taken on board these ships to act as food supplies during long ocean passages. Sometimes their bodies were processed into high-grade oil. Really, in total, an estimated 200,000 animals were taken from the archipelago before the 20th century. This historical exploitation was then exacerbated when settlers came to the islands. They hunted the tortoise and destroyed their habitat to clear land for agriculture. They also introduced alien species ranging from cattle, pigs, goats, rats, and dogs to plants and ants that either prey on the eggs and young tortoise or damage or destroy their habitat. Today, only 11 of the original subspecies survive, and of these, several are highly endangered. In 1989, work began on a tortoise breeding center just outside the town of Puerto Villamil on Isabela, dedicated in protecting the island's tortoise population. The center's captive breeding program proved to be extremely successful, and it eventually had to deal with an overpopulation problem. Okay. The problem was also pressing one. Captive bred tortoise can be reintroduced into the wild until they are at least 5 years old and weigh at least 4.5 kilograms, point their their size and weight and their hardened shells are sufficient to protect them from predators. But if people wait too long after that point, the tortoise eventually become too large to transport. Tama po ba yung pronunciation ko sa tortoise? Tortoise. Ko. Kasi tortoise muna, mamaya ko check yung pronunciation. Okay. For years, repatriation efforts were carried out in small numbers with the tortoise carried on the backs of men over weeks of long, treacherous hikes along narrow trails. But in November 2010, the environmentalists and Galapagos National Park liaison officer Godfrey Marlin, a visiting private motor yacht captain, and a helicopter pilot gathered around a table in a small cafe in Puerto Ayora on the island of Santa Cruz to work out more ambitious reintroduction. The aim was to use a helicopter to move 300 of the breeding center's tortoise to various locations close to Sierra Negra. This unprecedented effort was made possible by the owners of the 67-meter yacht White Cloud, who provided the Galapagos National Park with free use of their helicopter and its experienced pilot, as well as the logistical support of the yacht, its captain and crew. Originally an air ambulance, the yacht's helicopter has a double door and a large internal space that's well suited for cargo. So a custom crate was designed to hold up the 33 tortoise with a total of about 150 kilograms. This weight, together with that of the fuel, pilot, and 4 crew, approached the helicopter's maximum payload, and there were times when it was clearly right on the edge of the helicopter's capabilities. During a period of 3 days, a group of volunteers from the breeding center worked around the clock to prepare the young tortoise for transport. Meanwhile, park wardens dropped off ahead of time in remote locations, cleared landing sites within the thick brush, cacti, and lava rocks. Upon their release, the juvenile tortoise quickly spread out over their ancestral territory, investigating their new surroundings and feeding on the vegetation. Eventually, one tiny tortoise came across a fully grown giant who had been lumbering around the island for around 100 years. The two stood side by side, a powerful symbol of the regeneration of an ancient species. Inom muna tayong tubig. Nakakantok na. Oras na po. Okay, konti na lang. Babasa tayo para gumaling tayo sa kahit papano. Para gumaling tayo sa English. 'Di ba? Ang tanong, ang tanong, naiintindihan ko ba yung binabasa ko? Pero naiintindihan ko naman, pero hindi 100%. Pero, ayan. Babasahin ko dito sa susunod para sa susunod, mas maintindihan ko na siya. Okay. Ganda tong title ng aking babasahin. The intersection of health sciences and geography. Geography. Ulit. The intersection of health sciences and geography. Okay. Ganda to ah. Let's read. While many diseases, while many diseases that affect humans have been eradicated due to improvements in vaccinations and the availability of healthcare, there are still areas around the world where certain health issues are more prevalent. In a world that is far more globalized than ever before, people come into contact with one another through travel and living closer and closer to each other. As a result, superviruses and other infections resistant to antibiotics are becoming more and more common. Geography, mali. Geography can often play a very large role in the health concerns of certain populations. For instance, depending on where you live, you will not have the same health concerns as someone who lives in a different geographical region. Ulitin ko, hindi ko naintindihan yung ano. Geography can often play a very large role in the health concerns of certain population. For instance, depending on where you live, you will not have the same health concerns as someone who lives in a different geographical region. Perhaps one of the most obvious examples of this idea is malaria-prone areas, which are usually tropical regions that foster a warm and damp environment in which the mosquitoes that can give people this disease can grow. Malaria is much less of a problem in high-altitude deserts. For instance, malaria is much less of a problem in high-altitude deserts, for instance. Inulit. Okay. In some countries, geographical factors influence the health and well-being of the population in very obvious ways. In many large cities, the wind is not strong enough to clear the air of the massive amounts of smog and pollutions that cause asthma, lung problems, eyesight issues, and more in the people who live there. Part of the problems is, of course, massive numbers of cars being driven in addition to factories that run on coal power. The rapid industrialization of some countries in recent years has also led to cutting down of forests to, to allow for the expansion of big cities, which makes it even harder to fight the pollution with the fresh air that is produced by plants. It is in situations like these that the field of health geography comes into its own. It is an increasingly important area of study in a world where diseases like polio are re-emerging, diseases continue to spread, and malaria-prone areas are still fighting to find a better cure. Health geography is the combination of, on the one hand, knowledge regarding geography and methods used to analyze and interpret geographical information of and on the other, the study of health, diseases, and healthcare practices around the world. The aim of this hybrid science is to create solutions for common geography-based health problems. While people will always be prone to illness, the study of how certain illnesses and the prevention of others in the future, by understanding why and how we get sick, we can change the way we treat illness and disease specific to certain geographical locations. The geography of disease and ill health analyzes the frequency with which certain diseases appear in different parts of the world and overlays the data with the geography of the region to see if there could be a correlation between the two. Health geographers also study factors that could make certain individuals or a population more likely to be taken ill with a specific health concern or disease as compared with the population of another area. Health geographers in this field are usually trained as healthcare workers and have an understanding of basic epidemiology as it relates to the spread of diseases among the population. Researchers study the interaction between humans and their environment that could lead to illness and work to create a clear way of categorizing illnesses, diseases, and epidemics into local and global scales. Health geographers can map the spread of illnesses and attempt to identify the reasons behind an increase or decrease in illnesses as they work to find a way to halt the further spread of re-emergence of diseases in vulnerable populations. The second subcategory of health geography is the geography of healthcare provision. This study, this group studies the availability of healthcare resources to individuals and populations around the world. In both developed and developing nations, there is often a very large discrepancy between the options available to people in different social classes, income brackets, and levels of education. Individuals working in the area of the geography of healthcare provision attempts to assess the levels of healthcare in the area. For instance, it may be very difficult for people to get medical attention because there is mountain between their village and the nearest hospital. These researchers are on the front line of making recommendations and regarding policy to international organizations, local government bodies, and others. The field of health geography is often overlooked, but it constitutes a huge area of need in the fields of geography and healthcare. If we can understand how geography affects our health, no matter where in the world we are located, we can better treat disease, prevent illness, and keep people safe and well. Oh my God! Hello po! Salamat po sa nanonood na subscriber. Salamat po sa pagtsatsaga. Ang sarap uminom ng tubig. Ay, malapit na po tayo. So, magbabasa na lang po ng isang article na lang bago tayo magpaalam. Pagtsagaan niyo pa po sana ako. Okay, ang title na the article that I'll be reading right now is entitled Music and the Emotions. Music and the Emotions. The Music and the Emotions. Neuroscientist Jonah Lehrer considers the emotional power of music. Jonah Lehrer. What? Lehrer. Neuroscientist Jonah Lehrer considered the emotional power of music. Why does music make us feel? Why does music make us feel? On the one hand, music is purely abstract art from devoid of language of explicit ideas. And yet, even though music says a little, it still manages to touch us deeply. When listening to our favorite songs, our body betrays all the symptoms of emotional arousal. The pupils in our eyes dilate, our pulse and blood pressure rise, The electrical conductance of our skin is lowered, and the cerebellum, a brain region associated with bodily movement, becomes strangely active. Blood is even redirected to the muscles in our legs. In other words, sound stirs us at our biological roots. A recent paper in neuroscience by a research team in Montreal, Canada, marks an important step in repealing the precise underpinning of the potent pleasurable stimulus that is music. Although the study involves plenty of fancy technology, including functional magnetic resonance imaging (fMRI) and ligand-based positron emission tomography (PET scanning. The experiment itself was rather straightforward. After screening 217 individuals who responded to advertisements requesting people who experienced chills to instrumental music, the scientists narrowed down the subject pool to 10. They then asked the subjects to bring in their playlist of favorite songs. Virtually every genre was represented from techno to tango, and played them the music while their brain activity was monitored. Because the scientists were combining methodologists, they were able to obtain an impressively exact and detailed portrait of music in the brain. The first thing they discovered is that music triggers in the brain. Music triggers the production of dopamine, a chemical with a key role in setting people's mood, by the neurons nerve cells in both the dorsal and ventral regions of the brain. As these two regions have long been linked with the experience of pleasures, this finding isn't particularly surprising. What is rather more significant is the finding that the dopamine neurons in the caudate a region of the brain involved in learning stimulus response association and in anticipating food and other reward stimuli were at their most active around 15 seconds before the participant's favorite moment in the music. The researchers call this the anticipatory phase and argue that the purpose of this activity is to help us predict the arrival of our favorite part. The question, of course, is what all these dopamine neurons are up to. Why are they so active in the period preceding the acoustic climax? After all, we typically associate surges of dopamine with pleasure, with the processing of actual rewards, and yet, this cluster of cells is most active when the chills have yet to arrive, when the melodic patterns is still unresolved. One way to answer the question is to look at the music and not the neurons. While music can often seem like a labyrinth of intricate patterns, it turns out that most important part of every song or symphony is when the patterns break down, when the sound becomes unpredictable. If the music is too obvious, it is annoyingly boring, like an alarm clock. Numerous studies, after all, have demonstrated that dopamine. Numerous studies, after all, have demonstrated that dopamine neurons quickly adapt to predictable rewards. If you know what's going to happen next, then we don't get excited. This is why composers all often introduce a keynote in the beginning of a song, spend most of the rest of the piece in the studious avoidance of the pattern, and then finally repeat it only at the end. The longer the longer we deny the longer we are denied the pattern we expect, the greater the emotional release when the pattern returns safe and sound. To demonstrate this psychological principle, the musicologist Leonard Meyer, in his classic book Emotion and Meaning in Music, analyze the fifth movement of Beethoven's String Quartet in C sharp minor, Opera 131. Mayer wanted to show how music is defined by its flirtation with, but not submission to our expectation of order. Mayer dissected 50 measures bars of the masterpieces, showing how Beethoven begins with a clear statement of a rhythmic and harmonic pattern, and then, in an ingenious tonal dance, carefully holds off repeating it. What Beethoven does instead is suggest variation of the pattern. Mayer wants to preserve an element of uncertainty in his music. Okay. Making our brains beg for the one chord he refuses to give us. Beethoven saves the chord for the end. According to Mayer, it is the suspenseful tension of music, arising out of our unfulfilled expectations, that is the source of the music's feeling. While earlier theories of music focus on a way a sound can refer to the real world of images and experiences, its connotative meaning, Mayer argued that the emotions we find in music come from the unfolding events of the music itself. This embodied meaning arises from the patterns the symphony invokes and then ignores. It it is this uncertainty that triggers the surge of dopamine in the as we struggle to figure out what will happen next. We can predict some of the notes, but we can't predict them all. And that is what keeps us listening, waiting expectantly for our reward, for the pattern to be completed. Okay, natapos din tayo. Naantok na ako. Naantok na rin ba kayo? May tubig pa. Sarap ng tubig. James, ginagawa mo? Tapos na yung inaayos mo? Andyan kasi yung kapatid ko. Sinasamahan ako ngayon. Sige, siguro, paalam mo na po ako ngayon, pansamantala dito. Pabalik ako sa mga susunod. Siguro try kong mag-live dun sa isa kong channel, sa main channel. Para malaman po nila kasi hindi nila alam pa. Matagal na ako din nag-update dito sa channel na to. Pero kaya kailangan ko ring ipaalam muna na meron ako second channel. Sige, para sa susunod na mag-live ako, marami nang manonood. Sige po, paalam muna. Bye-bye.